Pence expected to make an announcement on space policy today. Pence, who is the chair of the National Space Council, will speak at the Space Symposium in Colorado Springs. Some speculate the announcement has to do with cutting regulation.
Meanwhile, the FBI's former top boss kicking off his media blitz book tour this past weekend with more shots at the president.
There's a distinction between a friend of yours and a friend of ours. I felt this effort to make us all, and maybe this wasn't their intention, but it's the way it felt to me, to make us all amica nostra. We're all part of the messaging. We're all part of the effort. The boss is at the head of the table, and we're going to figure out together how to do this.
How strange is it for you to sit here and compare the president to a mob boss?
Very strange. And I don't do it lightly.
Dan Bongino is a former Secret Service agent and host of the Dan Bongino Show, the podcast that's so successful, and he joins us now to react to all of this. What'd you think about the mafia boss connection?
You know, Ainsley, for a guy who's 6'8", Jim Comey could not have looked any smaller last night. What a petty, small man. A mob boss. When I was a Secret Service agent, Ainsley, we used to go in the boss's office all the time, and he would say, you know, we're in this together. It's a team, you know, inferring that there should be some loyalty to the Secret Service and the cause. That Jim Comey went out there and used expressions used every day in private and public practice across America, and to use it to infer that the president is a mob boss, to compare him to killers, people involved in racketeering. I mean, what a disgusting thing to say. Jim Comey should really slither away. He's an embarrassment to the FBI.
Well, one of the things, Dan, that, you know, is understood at the FBI is you never talk about an ongoing open investigation. And yet there he was on TV last night talking about all these open investigations. I mean, doesn't that fly in the face of everything that he says he stands for?
Steve, yes, he can't seem to get his story straight about what he wants to do. What he does is he selectively keeps certain things quiet when he can use them to leverage them against the president. It is clear as day he can't stand Donald Trump, that this is personal. Steve, there was one thing, too, about this interview yesterday that jumped out at me, too. He said at one point, after every conversation, you notice they kept playing that B-roll. Oh, I go home and I typed on the computer, and they showed the blanked out computer.
Right.
What, really? He reminded me of a kid who like rats on his brother because he got gum in his hair or something like that. He didn't do this for Barack Obama. I mean, how pathetic. You took notes on every meeting with the president?
He was also so-called showboating during the Bush administration. He was very put down to President Bush. He said President Obama used his sense of humor to build people up, and he would always point it at himself because he was so confident and humble, where George Bush would use it to dig at other people, which showed an insecurity. I'm thinking to myself, wow, he's Dr. Drew, and he was a former FBI director. Meanwhile, let's talk about the other news that got smothered, and that is the IG report that had Andy McCabe confirmed to lie 4 separate times during this investigation. Luca, go between the lines on this.
Well, there was a huge bombshell in that report, by the way, and hat tip to Christian Adams for pointing me to it over the weekend, where at one point a Department of Justice attorney calls McCabe and starts kind of putting the squeeze on him to make this Clinton thing like go their way. I mean, how did that get lost in the weekend news? That is a mega story in and of itself. But story number 2, and by the way, if you donated to Andy McCabe's legal fund, put a hold on that credit card charge right now, because get your money back. At one point, apparently, he authorizes a leak and then calls 2 senior FBI managers to ream them out for the leak he caused.
Do you believe that?
What kind of a character-free person do you have to be? I scratched my head like, this has got to be a new low.
And who gave him
Andy
permission to
McCabe.
do that leak? He says he got permission. Who gave him permission?
And then he lied to Comey, too, which is fascinating. So, I mean, that story was full, and I encourage you to go look at it, of just really serious allegations.
Right. And Dan, this is just the first of the Inspector General reports. This one was just focusing on, the release was to explain why Andy McCabe got fired. We're still going to hopefully find out about FISA abuse and any other Department of Justice or FBI corruption, right?
Yeah, Andy McCabe's going to need that legal money that a lot of liberals gave to him to defend himself. I think the big bombshell in the IG report is going to be if those FBI 302s, the summaries of the interviews with the people in the case, if they were altered in any way, Steve, these guys are in a world of trouble.
You have suggested that they were at his suggestion.
Yeah, I got a good source. There may be a problem there. So
all right,
he's in a lot of trouble, those guys.
All right,
We'll
thanks,
stay
Dan.
tuned.
Thank
All
you,
right,
Dan.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
All right, still ahead. Friend of the show, actor and retired Marine drill instructor Arlie Urmi has passed away. We took a look back at his visits onto the Fox and Friends couch.
Always fun.
Plus, James Comey claiming President Trump may have obstructed justice. The judge is here to react to that live.